In a previous lesson, we discussed the value of Sabbath rest to us and the environment. And though we need rest, and God has set aside a day for us to rest, we often find that there is a longing in our heart for more. In this 6-part series, we discover what more is and how we can obtain it. If you would like to review a copy of the lesson, you can obtain it at ssnet.org. That is ssnet.org. Click on Adult SS and select Weekly Lesson. Our key text for this lesson is 1 Corinthians 10, verse 6, the English Standard Version. And it reads, "Now these things took place as examples for us, that we may not desire evil as they did." That's 1 Corinthians 10, 6. In part 1, we discussed the word copy. A copy, we understand, is an example of something bigger and better than itself. A copy is not the real thing. Copies are only symbols or word pictures of something else. We acknowledge that a copy or a model helps us understand better the thing that it shows us, but the model cannot replace the thing it copies. We found that the Bible is full of models and examples. These examples point to the Bible reality. This is part 2 of a 6-part series. The title is Baptized into Moses, Immersed in the Red Sea. Paul in his letter to the Corinthians want to convey an important point to his reader when he talks to them about examples. Let's read 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 11 to find out what he means by example. "Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea. All were baptized, immersed into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. All ate the same spiritual food, all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with most of them, God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things became our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. And do not become idolaters, as were some of them. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Now let us commit sexual immorality, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell. Nor let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed by the serpent. Nor complain, as some of them also complained and were destroyed by the destroyer. Now all these things happened to them as examples, and they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the age has come." Now, in 1 Corinthians 10, 6, the word "written as example" in most English Bibles comes from the Greek word typos. The word type in the English language comes from the Greek word. So, what is a type or example? It is the same as a model. A type or example is not the same as the real thing. Like a model, a type is always a copy, symbol, or a word picture for the thing that it shows. So a type is a copy that shows us something. Hebrews 8:5 gives us a good example of a model or a type which serves as the copy of heavenly things. Here, Paul points out that Moses, a leader of the Israelites, was divinely instructed by God to make a tabernacle or a sanctuary. In rehearsing God's instructions to Moses, Paul quotes God's instructions, direct instructions to Moses, and says, "See that you make all things according to the pattern shown to you on the mountain." Now, this model Moses was shown in the mountain shows us a bigger Bible truth. The work that the priest, the holy leaders do is really only a copy and a shadow of what is in heaven. Therefore, God warned Moses that when he was ready to build the holy tabernacle or the sanctuary, be sure to make everything exactly like, that is the same as the pattern I showed you on the mountain. Now, Hebrews 8:5 shows us that God uses things on earth to show us Bible truth about things in heaven. In Hebrews 8:5, we read a quote from Exodus 25, verse 9, that says, exactly like, that is the same as the pattern. This quote shows us that the tabernacle or sanctuary on earth is an example or model for the temple in heaven. And as Christians, we believe Jesus is working in this temple right now to save us. This example helps us to better understand what Paul is talking about in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. In this chapter, Paul talks about some of the experiences of Israel in the desert on their way to the promised land, the land that God had promised to them. The words "our fathers" in 1 Corinthians 10:1 refers to the Israelites who left Egypt. God led them by his cloud. God opened the Red Sea, and his people walked on dry land through the Red Sea. This is why Paul says the Israelites were baptized into a new life. Paul's point is that these important experiences in the desert are examples, are types, are models. The Israel experience in walking on dry land through the Red Sea is a type of model showing us baptism in Jesus. In the same way, the manna, or food from heaven in Exodus 16:31-35, is a word picture for the spiritual food that Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 10:3. Exodus 16:31-35 reads, "And the house of Israel called its name manna. It was like white coriander seed, and the taste of it was like wafer made with honey." Then Moses says, "This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Fill an omer with it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a pot and put an omer of manna in it and lay it up before the Lord to keep it for your generation." As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel ate manna 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. Israel also drank water from a rock. In 1 Corinthians 10:4, Paul tells us this rock is Jesus. For sure, Jesus is that bread of life, according to John 6:48, and the living water, according to John 4:10. Paul uses examples from the Old Testament history to show us Bible truth. These Bible truths have meaning for our lives as Christians today. We will discover more about them in part 3 of this series titled More Old Testament Examples.